Freren checked her wrist, giving it a little shake to wake up her brand new PDD. The thin black band displayed the time across her fur, though it looked better on normal skin and worked best on the iron-rich flesh of humans. The time read out 0600, and she growled in her throat. Freren was a Yorpal of semi-bestial race of the stars that hailed from Dagmar Prime. Her people were one of snout and paw, animalistic in appearance and stature. Her fur was a dull yellow, quite common really, while her pink eyes only gave her a little bit of leg to stand out. This early in the morning, they always had a nice slight glow to them. Yorpal with lightly colored eyes like hers sometimes had a little shiny glow to them at certain times of the day, while darker colors just looked normal. Freren had changed quite a bit during her time with the Unified American States military, both in mind and body. She was no longer a lithe Yorpal, but something that the other Yorpals simply called a human-made werewolf, playing off of ancient human mythos. She was strong, muscular, and far more built than a standard Yorpal. While her kind called her monstrous and ugly, the humans kept calling her beautiful and breathtaking, which confused her something fierce. Rayburn said similar things to her all the time, and there was a male human that was slowly turning up his flirtations with her. Brahm was not as brawny as the other human males, and had an odd way about him. Freren didn't know what exactly it was, but he moved a lot like Rayburn, a prairie cat stalking after her and unleashing smooth-talking compliments when he caught her. He was nearly the opposite of Rayburn. He had reddish-brown hair, a smooth, kind, charming face, and a body that was obviously built for speed. Freren's sister, Ramira, had told her he was a rectangle human, after sending her a selfie of the two of them, whatever the fuck rectangle human meant. She grumbled in her throat again, then checked her wrist one more time. 0601 was the readout, and she hung her head back, exhaling angrily into the sky. Her breath fogged upwards in smoky tendrils, something she quite liked. Dagmar Prime didn't really have cold weather. Not like Earth, anyway. New star citizens feeling an Earth winter for the first time usually suffered extreme shock, or had to bundle up in warm clothing so they didn't freeze to death. Even new Yorpals had to wrap themselves inside coats and jackets, as despite having fur, it sure as hell wasn't rated for Earth. It never bothered the humans, though, not until it got below freezing. Then again, not much ever seemed to bother humans. Freren was waiting outside a large staging area, rolling back and forth on the balls of her cold-weather paw shoes, as the company started getting ready for their cold-weather field training exercise. Humans fought on all battlegrounds, unlike the others, and while her fellow star children had done well during the warmer months of training, they were in for a bitterly cold surprise. Yorpal were renowned for their ability to only fight on warm battlegrounds, while Karlakens, great cobra-hooded lizard people, didn't go to planets altogether if it wasn't at least a balmy 75 United American States Fahrenheit. Human soldiers, on the other hand, trained in them all, and were expected to perform in them. For the first time during their training, the Rowan finally had a leg up on the other recruits, as their planet was mostly cold except for 4 months out of the year. In regards to some of the hell she had endured, Freren could handle another Missouri winter, and the damn things were almost a badge of honor to the Yorpal. At least she was tougher than the recruits. It was only 50 UASF, and all of them were in their winter gear puffing back and forth while she stood there in a standard YBDU, or a Yorpal battle dress uniform, as they were now called. Freren had even gotten to model for a little e-zine, and she had found it quite fun. Rayburn teased her about it, putting the printed-out pages up on the walls of Freren's room, while Brahm instead took fake pictures of her when he saw her, asking her to growl like a tiger. Both were flattering, and at the same time, she kinda hated them both in an affectionate way. While she observed the recruits trundle back and forth, woken up far earlier than usual, she watched the humans. They were unbothered by the cold, some of them even poking a little fun at their otherworldly fellows. Humans were red-blooded, which was not too rare, but their blood was quite different indeed. Human blood was energy-rich, dangerous, and always an eyebrow-raising 100.1 UASF, or 37.7 ECC. Not that it ever stayed that temperature. Humans even disregarded the rules of their own body, and their blood temperatures tended to fluctuate. Then there was the thing about how their blood was poison. "Morning, Freren!" Freren blinked her pink eyes as she left her inner thoughts and turned, spying Himmel striding through the motor pool cargo area. "Well, hey there, Himmel. I see you got your E4. Freren said with a smile, spying the double chevrons on Himmel's chest. Himmel chuckled, hands in the pockets of his field jacket. "Well, we all can't lag behind the great and mighty Freren. You should hear Zetran. He hasn't stopped hissing about getting his own." "Is this field training exercise bigger than what I thought it was going to be?" Freren asked the Point, looking down at him. The Point were a shorter, multicolored race of peoples from Pillin 4. Despite being a slender, athletic race that held deeply colored, pupilless eyes, they had pointed ears and shared many features of the humans in terms of simple structures, such as the hands and feet. Their lack of height, however, led to humans treating them like space elves, something the Point were coming to terms with while wearing forced, angry smiles. "Yeah, they're going to have multiple units running around doing war games and all that. I personally am not looking forward to it," Himmel said with a puff and fogged breath past his lips. "I have nothing but Jinn, humans, and Point to work with. You got all the Yorpals, and Zetran got all the damn Carlakins." The Jinn were an odd race of the stars, and were only surviving at all thanks to the humans. They were new to the Cinderal Confederation, the four-armed, angular-headed race having been nearly destroyed completely during the war against the insectoid Daramir. Like the others, they were seeking to pay back the humans for just barely keeping their culture alive, and numbered only in the low millions from the billions they were at their peak. Unlike everyone else, they wore cultural face covers in the forms of ornamental and heavily detailed masks, and only let certain people see their true face, such as their future spouse. One human, the first of his kind, managed to convince a female Jinn to let him have a peek under her mask. He was stunned, as the story goes, and her countenance bore him to keep her secret. Some people tried to wiggle a little bit of the truth out of him over time, and the only thing he kept saying was, they were grooved with natural tattoos that ensnare the eyes. The man seemed to have a way with words, and was still, with said Jinn, honor-bound. Humans were silly creatures, honestly. "Do not be so pessimistic, Himmel," Zetran said as he walked up beside Freren on the opposite side of Himmel, still petting his pet ferret, Carl the Boneless. "Just because I have all the Carlaken doesn't mean it will be unfair." Freren raised an eyebrow at Zetran. He had been working on not drawing out his S's when speaking, which she had been wondering about for a few weeks now. It was unlike Zetran to rein in his speech patterns, and she secretly believed it had something to do with the ferret. Maybe the way he spoke scared it? "You're not bringing Carl out to the field, are you?" Freren asked, turning towards Zetran. "Seti, you can't drag animals out into the field. You're supposed to be training the recruits." Carl crawled up into the warm, flared hood of Zetran, which was only warm due to the special jackets they wore due to their own lower blood temperatures. "Oh, please. Carl will be fine. He is an earth ferret. They are made of the same stuff as humans." "He battered them down anyway," Himmel said, cracking the lid on an energy drink called Suck My Star-Spangled Ding-Dong, Cherry. "He said he wouldn't go into the field without Mr. Boneless, and that it was his right as a citizen of the Cinderella Confederation." Freren, having turned to look at Himmel as he spoke, slowly turned her head towards Zetran, pink eyes narrowed. "Did you really pull an Article 69 over a ferret?" "It is my right," Zetran said, His face set in an apathetic amusement as he twiddled his clawed fingers in Carl's ferrety fur. Freyrin shook her head, shrugging her shoulders in bewilderment. Unbelievable. That's our Zetrin, Himmel said, slurping loudly from the bottle with half-lidded orange eyes. He took a few sips, then smacked his lips before turning to Freyrin. All the recruits now mingling together as multiple training companies began filtering in for vehicles and APCs. You hear about Gesserit? Freyrin flicked her ears as the recruits started falling into formations, watching the Yorpal closely. Can't say the name rings a bell? What happened?
The Jinn was playing around too much with a human, wrestling in the evenings. There was an accident,
Zetrin murmured, casting his own withering stare at the long lines of Karlaken recruits. Himmel nodded. They got too rough. The Jinn was on the attack, and I guess they bonked their mask against the human's nose. They fell over, hit the mat, knocked each other out, something of that nature. The human's broken nose spilled a whole mess of blood into Gesserit's mouth, ended up swallowing a bunch of it. And what? Got a tummy ache? Freyrin asked, squinting her eyes. It's just blood. It happens all the time amongst the other members of the Confederation. Zetrin chuckled, nuzzling into the ferret Carl as he did.
Well, yes. That would be the end of it. Usually, the stomach acid would digest the blood and all would be well. Except this is not what happened.
Gesserit was poisoned, Himmel said darkly, now looking to the humans mixed into all the formations, forming the bulk of the soldiers, even with the Rowan counted in. He nearly died in the hospital. Freyrin furrowed her brows and her tail gave a frustrated flick. Poisoned? How? It's just blood. Stars know we can trade plenty of other fluids with humans with no side effects. Kissing hasn't even been an issue, and human saliva breaks down organic matter better than everyone else's. It scared the humans, let me tell you, Himmel said after another solid drink from his bottle. The blood? I don't know, attacked him or something. He got really sick and they had to pump him with a lot of medicine to get him stabilized. They did a few tests, and, well, it explains why a lot of us got sick during medical treatments in the field. Zetrin nodded.
Human blood got on things. Humans are clever little creatures, made up synthetic blood bags for us all until they get enough stored in their cold cells. Rowan blood is red, point blood is quite pink, but they wanted to make sure we could all be taken care of. No one had ever tried to intake human blood. Fresh, hot human blood was transferred into a willing Rowan, and it nearly killed him, Himmel said, swirling his bottle around in thought. Crashed out on the table and his body started shutting down. They had to drain him like a sink before he died. Why? Freyrin asked, thinking back to her little experiments with humans in the past, as well as Rayburn. If anything, her brain told her that human spit should have been the most dangerous thing they could come into contact with, barring whatever fur fauna the more degenerate humans carried around. Human spit may not have been the most powerful solvent ever made, but some star citizens did mention feeling a light tingle when kissing humans. Then there was the weird fruit called a pineapple, which a lot of them couldn't even eat. Freyrin tried once, and her tongue had felt raw for days. Humans don't know yet, but they have been putting out messages and emails since yesterday, probably why they are all in formation. Himmel said, nodding towards a medical colonel, making his way towards the front of the troopers. True enough, it was a warning announcement, and many of the recruits were casting worried glances at the humans next to them, even though the colonel stressed that it was only dangerous if very fresh blood got into their system. He also said to make sure they did not swallow or ingest any kind of human blood for now, and to make sure to wash their hands should they come in contact with it. So, what if humans ingest our blood then? Freyrin asked. Himmel let out a chuckle. Oh, that doesn't matter at all. Humans have extremely strong stomach acids. They could crack us open like ice pops and drink our blood for food if they wanted to. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Zetrin murmured as Carl chirred next to his face.
They've never fed on any of us before, never drank or eaten us. What if it gave them powers?
It was Fraren's turn to chuckle this time, and she nudged Zetrin's elbow with her own. Humans don't get superpowers from drinking the blood of others. Don't be silly.
Except for the vampires,
Himmel said, seriously looking up to Freren.
You know, these humans, all kinds of weird things have happened before.
Vampires do not exist, Freren said with a huff and shake of her tail. Neither do zombies. I can't believe you got all of your recruits hell-bent on believing that humans can come back from the dead. Himmel grimaced.
Say what you will, non-believer, but I know I'm right.
Zokoro morquit, Freren said ruefully, shaking her head. You're as bad as the damn males. They swear up and down that humans can innately tell when someone is looking at them. They've been stalking the other recruits for weeks trying to prove it.
How is that whole thing going?
Himmel asked, pulling out his second bottle of energy slurry and cracking the lid open with a sharp twist.
I heard you got into a few brawls.
Freren snorted, crossing her arms again in a more protective posture. They are not used to being led by a female. Female Yorpals are handled by a female. Male Yorpals are handled by a male. These fur bags were all civilians before they came here. They do not fall in line as easily as my fellow military Yorpal. I put in a request for a secondary commanding male to be sent to the training company, and I was told to just make them behave by command.
I'm sure they are getting a grasp on the program.
Zetrin hissed out in laughter, while Carl choked out his own mimicry of mirth.
I remember hearing about Command wanting to go full hands off when it came to you disciplining the Yorpal. She handles the furballs. We'll fix them after is a direct quote from Major Human.
Major Human? Himmel asked Zetrin, taking a pause from slurping at his energy slurry.
I thought he was a myth.
Freren let out a giggle. No, he's real. He's a medical officer at Gilwak.
Huh?
Himmel murmured hollowly into his bottle.
Just seems a little too far on the nose.
Zetrin rubbed a claw under Carl's chin, the ferret churring happily as the Carlacan observed the humans running around, at ease in the cold weather.
Look at them run around like that. It's almost as if they can't even feel the cold.
Human blood gonna human blood, Freren said at the same time as Himmel, the two looking at each other in mild but friendly annoyance.
Their higher iron content is already off the charts compared to others, makes their muscles tougher to boot.
Himmel continued on before Freren could interrupt him.
Their blood may be the most unique in the Confederation. What's crazier is that their blood is even toxic to other humans. Any Jin, Yorpal, Poit, or anyone else that shares the same blood as their people can transfer their juice either way across, no problems. Earth? None of their creatures can do it, and especially not humans. I think even their cattle have like 11 blood groups. Blood groups confused me for the longest time,
Zetrin mused.
Animals not being compatible with humanoids makes sense, sure, but nearly every animal having separate blood groups, it is insane to me.
Freren tapped at her chin, then glanced to Himmel as human trainees started hauling water jugs into the back of cargo trucks, all while the Yorpals, Poits, and Carlacans shivered. What do you mean their blood is toxic to other humans? I could give blood right now to any Yorpal in this motor pool without issue.
They have 4 blood types, each with a negative and positive trait.
Himmel began, holding up his fingers.
O negative is the universal donor blood type, with O positive being right behind it, for all the positive blood types. What's really wild is what happens when a human gets the wrong blood type, and is kind of what we think happens when one of us ingests too much human blood.
What do you mean? Freren asked, shaking her head back and forth as a pair of Rowans struggled with a single water can, while a human female trudged past hauling one in each hand. The Rowan let out angry breaths of fog when a male human trudged by soon after, 2 water cans held in each fist. Himmel took a deep breath, trying to find the right words.
It's... the human body attacks the blood.
Attacks it? Like an immunity response? Freyrin asked, while beside her, Zetrin nodded.
Their immune system attacks the blood, seeing it as a foreign invader. It causes the blood to clump and can be fatal. I thought the humans were joking, but the first symptom of an incorrect blood type is impending doom.
Zetrin said. He saw two male Carlakens doing nothing standing by a truck's exhaust in order to try and stay warm, and he hissed at them loudly in their mother tongue. The two Carlakens grumbled to themselves as they went back to work.
Humans are warlike, and their bodies are no different. The little warriors within their veins engage in genocide of the enemy invaders, causing chills, sore muscles, and the like. It is rare, and they take great care to make sure the right blood gets to the right person.
Freyrin was quiet for a moment, watching the preparations near their end as crates of field chow rations were loaded onto the trucks, along with the sim munitions. She spoke aloud to the two star citizens next to her, her ears pinning back a little in fear. What if they mess up and give us human blood?
If it is the pre-packed blood bags, that blood is purified of white blood cells through leukoreduction and is not alive,
Zetrin said, though his voice was uneasy.
You will get sick, very sick, and will have to go to the hospital in order to be looked after.
Himmel also looked uneasy, his voice tight.
If it is fresh human blood, like being directly given across a tube in transfusion, it will kill you within only a few minutes. That Rowan was lucky, as he was in the hospital when he started to die, and was surrounded by medical staff. The human blood will wage an all-out war on your own system, and your body will be shut down as it is killed by inches. You will, feel your body dying, and there will be nothing you can do about it.
Fuck's sakes, Freyrin whispered with a frown. Is it the same way for them, if they take our blood? Himmel gave a rueful snort.
Hell no! Their bodies consume our blood as if it were food. Don't tell anyone I told you this, but I heard that when the Rowan first came in, they did a few tests on surviving members of Company 13. Their bodies hoovered up the blood like it was pineapple juice, ripped all the nutrients from it, then spat out the waste in their piss. Worst is, their bodies can do this for all of our blood too. They may not get superpowers, but Poit blood makes humans high, Yorpo blood makes them hungry, and Carlaken blood makes them sleepy. Jin and Rowan blood gives them an energy boost, while Optican blood makes them want to eat cherries for whatever reason.
Cherries? Why? Freyrin asked, and was kind of annoyed that humans could just crush the blood of everyone else while theirs was poison. Himmel shrugged.
Beats me. The test subjects in the reports just said they wanted to eat cherries or drink the juice. When they were given a small cup of it, they were quite pleased and were suddenly really good at crossword puzzles.
Where do they get the biological nerve? Freyrin muttered.
Did you know how many human cultures drink blood?
Zetrin piped up, his eyes bright as he remembered this little nugget of information, and his hood flared in excitement.
The Maasai and Bahima all consume blood as a drink. Poland and Germany are famous for making sausage out of blood, too. Ancient human warrior cultures, such as the Romans and Scythians, were also alleged to drink the blood of their enemies. And even today, hunters in North America will eat the still fresh hearts of their kills.
Freyrin and Himmel looked at Zetrin horror-struck, despite the happily whipping tail of the Carlaken as he recounted all the other foods and recipes that required the blood of animals. Freyrin was about to turn green when he launched into the organs they ate as well, and was rescued by the timely calling of all the drill sergeants from the training companies down below.
Oh, geez, Zetrin, that's real neato, but look at that. We better get going.
Himmel said, trudging off towards the motor pool, all while being a little wobbly in the knees.
Time to go make pretend war. Yup, off we go. No more talking about blood sausage or blood soup or fucking blood milk.
Frerin stepped off after the point, with Zetrin at her flank, and she turned her head to the great cobra-hooded lizard man. You need to stop this whole late-night reading thing. You're going down rabbit holes that nothing should be living in.
I just thought it was neat,
Zetrin said with a pout, quickly shuffling the ferret Carl into a more secure inner jacket pocket. Frerin waved her friends goodbye and got into the back of an APC that was part Yorple and part human, though thankfully it was all female Yorple. They all bowed their heads to her as she climbed in, and she nodded back to them as she took one of the remaining seats. She was honestly becoming taxed by having to manage both males and females. The split in control had always been in the best interest of the two Yorple genders. Male Yorple knew best what to do with the males, and female Yorple knew how to handle the finicky nature of the females. She honestly had no idea why Command was so hell-bent on making her deal with both genders, and she was quickly becoming frayed at the edges due to the anxiety it produced. Eventually, as she knew, the male Yorples would outstrip her in muscle mass, and she could finally dump the males onto him. One male red Yorple, up on the big-mouthed bass, was a good friend of hers, and despite being lower rank, took lead on the males. The humans, a mix of males and females, all nodded politely to her, one male speaking up for them, since he was the specialist of the group.
"Morning, Corporal,"
he said, winking at her.
"Wanna give us any deets on what kind of missions we'll be on?"
Frerin smiled at him, and she noticed with a small twinge of pleasure that he seemed to blush lightly. Well, we have a whole mess of sim munitions, including mortars. You all packed your goggles, right? They all responded, "Yes, Corporal," in unison, and Frerin had to fight to not wag her tail. We have backups just in case anyway. We'll be using brand new Core 3 simunitions made for us by our Optican friends in orbit. Part paint and part micro-taser. It will make you feel much like you have been shot, and the only thing you are going to be allowed to wear are your goggles, protective gear for your sensitive bits, and a standard uniform. Frerin said, and all of them gave a shiver of fear. A blue and white female Yorple raised her hand. But we just did armor training. I got shot and everything. I know, Frerin said, patting her on the leg where they both bore the wound hole that all UAS soldiers shared. But this is new training. They're attempting to simulate a real combat environment, even more than when I was last here. They don't hurt too much when they get you anyway. Just feels like you get hit with a really, really, really painful paint round. A male human snorted, rustling his short blonde mustache with his fingers. Super.
At least we'll have those nice tents,
A red female Yorple muttered in a rather husky voice, one who was quite popular with the male recruits.
They have those microfusion heaters in them. I saw another training company setting theirs up and making sure they still worked.
"We'll only get those if we're not up for,"
a male human said, leaning on his XC-1 Lancer rifle.
"If we draw the short straw, we'll be stuck in halves and relying on radiator heaters to not turn into meatsicles."
A far smaller red female Yorple, who was short even for Yorple standards, leaned her head back.
Well, we're fucked then.
"Why?"
A male human laughed out. The smaller red female Yorple turned to look at Frerin.
Because the corporal is in our company. She's a combat veteran, which means we're going to be putting the hurt on the other recruits.
The entire APC filled with defeated, angry guffaws, while Frerin instead giggled to herself with bared fangs. Oh, come on! Being the enemy would be fun! Imagine all the ambushes we could lay out, or do a little raiding on the enemy camps! Frerin called out, even as the grumbling increased in volume and different languages. A pink female Yorple held up her hands, digits of her pawed hands splayed. Oh, yay, I can't wait to lay out in the earth's snow and freeze, then get left in the dust by the humans as they go a-stalking through the winter landscape. If you ask nice, we'll walk slowly for you. An extremely cute male human said, twirling his gloved finger in imaginary curls, more due to how short his hair was shorn.
I sure would hate for that pretty fur of yours to get all fussy after trying to keep up with us.
The husky-voiced Red Yorple barked out a laugh.
Oh, fuck off, Crusoe.
I hear that female Yorples can't even run in a straight line. Is that true? I mean, only going for 3 miles.
A far larger black-skinned human said, pursing out his lips playfully. 3 miles is a lot! The extremely short red female Yorple shouted, jabbing a digit at him. Especially for me. Look how short these damn legs are. I need like 5 steps to one of yours, you jolly black giant. All the male humans recoiled in laughter as the larger black human let out his own shout of mirth, slapping his thighs with his hands. Frarian leaned down and rested her chin on the back of her pawed hand, watching the humans and Yorples bicker back and forth with lowered eyelids as her tail flicked behind her. She knew 2 of the people in this APC, which was now trundling down the road, weren't being completely honest. The husky-voiced Red Yorple named Trumi and the human Crusoe had been seeing each other secretly for nearly 2 weeks now, but they played their parts well. Frarian herself hadn't caught on until the 8th day of their tryst, and only barely noticed when she caught a whiff of Crusoe on the female's fur. Maybe she would help them cool their humors with a nice, long ambush in the snow, and let them lay there in the cold for a few hours. It would toughen up the rest of these females. She knew that for damn sure.
They told her no, right?
Mr. Radisson asked, the tired, rugged-looking Poit lighting up another cigarette. Miss Rimmicky nodded, having joined the Poit for a light lunch. The far larger, 4-eyed draconic Zumra twirled her spoon in her tea. I made sure of it. She'll be leading the male and female Yorple on her own.
If she can manage that, then that means the other females and males will too down the line. If we can do away with this gender separation the Yorples are so hell-bent on, it will cause further separation of Yorple military recruits from their home planet.
Mr. Radisson murmured, taking a sip of his 4th coffee. He took another drag from his cigarette and blew the smoke from his nose before looking to Miss Rimmicky.
Do you think we can manage it?
In time, Miss Rimmicky said. The Poit, Carlican, and Jin are already falling well in line. I give it another year before the Yorples start to lose their iron grasp on the Cinderal Confederation councils. They were already extremely angry after the humans allowed the Rowan in by paying their dues, and are slowly beginning to understand. They are not the top dog anymore. Mr. Radisson sighed out happily.
Think about it. No more worlds being left behind out of pride or lack of money. No more people of the stars will be snuffed out due to indifference. Humans may have been the key we needed for reformation all along. The Poit Council members are already on the fence, and the Carlaken Council members have been pro-human since the end of the Daramir War. How is the whole Zumra thing going? I know they are nearly as anti-human as the Yorple are at this point.
I've been having successes, Miss Rimmicky said with a devilish grin. They never expected an entire skip liner to accidentally arrive way inside Earth's authority range, and the mutiny on board the ship? A terrible happenstance. Who knew so many human weapons could be smuggled on board? Mr. Radisson grinned back.
Really? You went through with that? How many Zumra defectors were on that boat?
700, Miss Rimmicky said with a smug flick of her thick tail. Minus the 50 crew members. I'm sure they'll get over it. How are the others doing with their own tasks? Mr. Radisson took another sip of coffee and a quick bite of his French toast before speaking, having always been fond of human breakfast foods.
They're all secure in their tasks. Our Jinn members don't even have to really work. They'd teleport their damn planet here if they could. Our Yorple members are still pumping out student visas, letting ships slip through containment rings. All the usual. The Opticans have been a master stroke at this point. They may not be very tough, but they beat the shit out of the rest of us when it comes to hacking. Then there's that human, Capricus. He's been legitimizing a whole slew of rogue stations and prime lanes. It's been pissing off the Yorples something fierce.
The war against the Mandarin will do nothing but help us at this point, Miss Rimmicky murmured, though her face turned pensive. if not saddened. I do hate how the Nimiki got caught in the middle of all that. The poor dears. While the arrival of the Mandarin had been a timely boon, their near eradication of the Nimiki has been a horrible side effect. They are thankfully safe now thanks to the humans, and it has done nothing more than further our plans, if at an unwanted cost. In the end, it has been a show of strength, compassionate humans helping out planets in need, working side by side with the other citizens of the stars.
Imagine how angry that Yorpal Council would be if they knew.
Mr. Radisson said, and both he and Miss Rimmicky began to quietly laugh as she tapped her teacup against his offered coffee mug. I hope you enjoyed that story. Click right here to watch another video with the same characters.